Welcome back. Today, I want to talk about a piece of dating advice, quote unquote dating advice, that has somehow become mainstream online. And, to be honest, the more I hear it, the more disconnected from reality it sounds, and the more pissed off I get about it because it is just sending the wrong message to men in particular, but also to women. And you know the message, you know what it sounds like. It goes something like, don't approach women, let women cook, you know, let them hit the wall, and women be like, we don't want men to approach, men don't approach us anymore. You'll just get shut down, you'll just embarrass yourself, and all of that kind of stuff. And to be honest, it's a bunch of bullshit. It really, really, really is. You know what's strange is that this advice is often delivered with total confidence, as if it's some hard earned wisdom, which, well, it really isn't, as if approaching someone you're attracted to has suddenly become reckless or inappropriate. It isn't. It isn't. And at the exact same time, you hear women saying something completely different. They say men don't approach us anymore, men are passive, that confidence feels rare, that everything has moved to the apps, and nobody takes initiative anymore in real life. So, which one is it? Because both things cannot be true at the same time. Either we are approaching and we get shut down, or we are not approaching as guys. What's going on? Which one is it? But what's really happening here is a sudden cultural shift where approaching became unacceptable. What's happening is that a lot of men have become terrified of rejection, and instead of dealing with that fear honestly and straight on, they've built an entire narrative around it. And unfortunately, that narrative gets amplified online by, well, quite a bit, to be honest. A lot of these so called quote unquote dating hosts, they aren't speaking from experience, they are speaking from avoidance. They take their own anxiety and they dress it up as, well, moral superiority or social awareness. And, I'm not saying that there isn't some truth in what they're saying, but let's be honest, man. If you ask these guys or women, how many people did you approach in the last week, last month, last year? I think the number is going to be extremely disappointingly low. So, well, then what the fuck are you talking about? You don't know. You don't live this life. You're just talking. And that is a thing that pisses me off. They think like, if I never try, I never fail. If I never risk embarrassment, I never have to grow. That's not maturity, that's not wisdom. That's just emotional immaturity with a microphone. That's what it is. And it's sending the wrong message to guys. And to be honest, it comes across as incredibly childish. It's always putting the blame on women and women doing the same to men, of course, but that's not how it works. Since when did saying hello to someone became this huge moral dilemma? I don't get it. Since when did a polite rejection turn into something so unbearable that men feel the need to protect themselves from it entirely? I want to ground this in real life for a moment. And I'm going to take myself as an example. I'm not a Chad, I'm not a Tyrone, I'm an average guy. And I've approached women in normal social situations, at a bar, at an event, in everyday environments where usually conversation is expected, but to be honest, in the streets too, every now and again. And I have never in my almost 40 years, never experienced the dramatic horror stories the internet keeps pushing. Never, never had that happen to me. No public humiliation, no outrage, no scene, no one filming me for content. Now, I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but they make it seem like this is all women, which it isn't. And the worst thing that can really happen, or, well, the worst thing that happened to me is a polite, no, I'm sorry, I'm not interested. Thank you. Bye. And then I said, well, no problem. Have a good day. Bye. And I just move on with my life. That's it. That's it. That's what rejection looks like in real world most of the time. But if you listen to these online voices, You think approaching a woman guarantees disaster. And that belief does something really dangerous. It freezes men. It makes them sit on the sidelines, overthinking, watching, waiting for permission that never comes. If you have to wait for permission, I'm sorry, guys, it's not going to come. You just have to go for it. And then those same men go online and complain that dating is broken. Well, if you want it, you have to go get it. That contradiction tells you everything you need to know. Confidence isn't always about getting a yes. Confidence is about being okay with the outcomes that you don't control. If a polite no feels devastating to you, then well, that's not a social issue, that's a self-worth issue, which is fine, but you can work on that. But don't blame it on the women. And instead of addressing that honestly, many of these, quote unquote dating hosts, coaches, whatever you want to call it, externalize it. Women are the problem, society is the problem, culture is the problem. Anything is the problem except their own fear. Another thing that needs to be said clearly is this: women online are not a single group with one shared opinion. The same goes for men. A woman saying, "Look, I don't want you to approach me," in a viral clip is speaking for herself. She's not issuing a universal rule. That's not how it works. The internet rewards extreme statements, not balanced ones. Algorithms don't amplify nuance, they amplify outrage. And letting that dictate how you behave in real life is a mistake. It really is. Real life doesn't function like the internet does. Real life has context and tone and body language and mutual awareness. Most people are reasonable people. If a woman doesn't want to talk to you, she will let you know, usually politely. Sure, sometimes you get a polite no thank you, sometimes it is a little bit less polite, but it rarely or never really is this complete outrage. Approaching respectfully in the right context, it's not creepy. It's normal. It's how human beings have met for generations. What's actually unattractive isn't trying and failing, it's standing still, wanting connection and convincing yourself that not trying makes you enlightened. That's not confidence, that's coping, that's just being, well, that's pussying out. That's what it is, really. And here's the part these online voices never talk about: the cost of inaction, your ill cost, if you will. Sitting at a bar, seeing a woman you'd like to talk to, and then doing nothing and going home frustrated takes a toll over time. It really does. It chips away at your self trust. You start seeing yourself as passive, as someone who doesn't act on what they want. I've been there many times. I see a gorgeous woman, I don't talk to her, I go home, and I just keep talking to myself, "Oh, what if, I should have done this, I should have done that, but I didn't." That does more damage, far more damage than a polite rejection ever could. Even if the rejection is a little bit less polite. Dating isn't about waiting for consensus from the internet, guys. It's about reading the room. It's about being respectful and just accepting the outcomes like an adult. If you see a woman you find attractive and the situation makes sense, go say hello. If she's interested, great. If not, thank her for her time and just keep it moving. There's nothing humiliating about that unless you decide it is. So don't let men who are clearly afraid of rejection, who clearly do not put in the work, convince you that fear is wisdom. Don't let the internet narratives override your own experience of reality. Go into the real world, and trust what actually happens when you show up in the real world. And, make your conclusions based on that. Don't even listen to me. Go out, speak to women, say hello, see what happens. And based on that, you know what the real world is like. Because confidence doesn't come from debating dating online. It comes from participating in it. And that's how it works. So don't listen too much to these online, dating hosts and coaches. It's really a little bit of fear mongering, if you will. So that's that. Thank you for listening, guys. Hope this was useful, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye bye.